We expect stolen bases to be up in baseball with the new rules, but where are we going to find them? I'm going to talk with Shelly Verougstrate from RotoWorld and NBC Sports Edge. We'll talk about where to find those stolen bases here on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Welcome, everybody, to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the good folks at Underdog and Fantrax. We appreciate their sponsorship. Jeff Erickson here with Shelly Verougstrate from RotoWorld. Shelly, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm talking baseball. I'm watching baseball, watching golf, college basketball. It's crazy. It's so many awesome things going on right now.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, my phone has just been blowing up with all of like the World Baseball Classic news blurbs and everything. It's just a really fun time right now.
Two huge upsets last night. The Korea losing to Australia. I could not believe that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I was watching as I was supposed to be working today. And yeah, I was like really surprised that, Australia was able to pull it out.
Yeah. Exactly. And then Italy beat Cuba pretty big as well. Big for that. Big for Mike Piazza and his managerial debut in the WBC. They had a fun prospect, Sal Frelick, have a couple of big contributions there. Brewers prospect, big stolen base in extra innings. So I like seeing him because I think we'll probably see some of him this year.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. The news item of the day. Unfortunately, we have to start off with that. Is Carlos Rodon. Forearm tightness. He's going to miss at least a month. They're not even going to have him throw for 7 to 10 days. This is awful news.
Yeah. I mean, it really was. I mean, he came off like a career year with the Giants and signed like a big time contract with the Yankees. And I was like really happy for him because he dealt with injuries his entire time when he was with the White Sox. And then today, like the big whammy, like, I mean, actually like a lot of Yankees. It was just like a whole list of, injured players. But yeah, this is huge. I'm probably going to be staying away from him for any of the upcoming drafts.
Yeah, I wonder how much his ADP collapses. I mean, he was almost a riser sometimes. So we were seeing him sometimes go in the top 25 or so. I think that was kind of his peak, but late second, early third in a 15-teamer. Where did he go in ToutWars? Do you remember?
I don't, but I can do a little quick search here. He went 51st overall.
Okay, so that's pretty early still, and that's in that ace tier is. I've found that a lot of aces have been pushed down a little bit, and sometimes not even in the first round on a 15-teamer. I know that was the case in mixed labor. I wonder as we get deeper into draft season if you start to see some of these guys climb up a little bit. But I've been kind of hesitant to go early with aces.
Yeah, actually, I've been trying to do the opposite because I keep hearing, everyone's like, "Oh, you can wait." I'm just like, well, if y'all want to wait, I'll just come in and try to get all the aces. Luckily, so far, I have not had a unfortunate luck of drafting Rodon, but as we know, all pitchers get hurt, so I probably have a few injured players in my team right now.
Exactly. I know I had this great draft going in the FSGA. I did the conference in Vegas and all that. Oh, hey, Joe Musgrove. Oh, I drafted Gavin Lux an hour before he got hurt. Fun. It's just things like that. So you must know it's coming. And even and I got Andrew Painter too. I was like, oh yes, I finally got my one share of him. I'm good now. Oh, come on.
Yeah.
So that's brutal.
Yeah, we still haven't heard any official news from the Phillies about Painter. So that's very, very scary and concerning in my opinion.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And in fact, the verbiage that I have heard is he hasn't been told he needs surgery. Nobody has heard that he needs surgery yet. It's not saying he doesn't need surgery.
Exactly. We can kind of, read through the lines and we kind of know what might be happening.
Right. And I think they sent it off for imaging at Dr. Neil at Trash. So that to me is, you're going to the specialist. Sometimes he comes back with good news. Usually doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, unfortunately. So he's pretty much off my draft board in redraft leagues now, unfortunately. Yankees had one other bad news item. Harrison Bader also got an oblique injury. They can't keep him on the field. I mean, granted, they traded for him when he was hurt, but at the same time, it's bad breaks again abound.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, Bader was just kind of like off my entire draft board all season, because he dealt with plantar fasciitis pretty much all last year. And that's kind of like one of those conditions that just doesn't go away, and it always crops up at like the worst time. But today it was, I think it was like an oblique injury. So, and that's another scary word, especially when it comes to hitters. So yeah, it's really unfortunate.
Yeah, and it's so funny. Like it's such a baseball injury. You don't really hear about it in other sports nearly as often. And it doesn't matter if you're a pitcher or a hitter. It seems like you get it either way. And
Yeah.
sometimes you get, oh, it's a week. Other times it's Tyler Glass now 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, like that Glass now news that hurt me. So I guess I dodged the Rodon, but I had Glass now in quite a few places. So yeah, he's going to be out for a while, and it's a grade 2. So even if it's going to be the 6 weeks or whatever, it might creep up to that 8 week, maybe even longer. It really
Yeah,
stinks.
especially because he's had to totally shut it down. And pitcher is kind of ramping up. His history in particular isn't so great. So that's another thing to worry about there off the top there. So stop getting hurt, guys. But this is the time of year of spring training when we get that too, especially pitchers.
Yes, exactly. Like everyone is like all excited for spring training, and we get through that first week, and then all the injuries come in, and then it's like, oh yeah, this is real life. It's not MLB the Show where you can turn off injuries. So it's just kind of one of those things.
Exactly. Joel Hennard says he had this conversation with his boss last week just about obliques in baseball. It's just such a baseball injury. And it's brutal about that, how that goes. We're going to talk a lot of stolen bases on this podcast. But before we do that, I'm going to share a quick note with one of our sponsors, kind of get that done right now. Underdog has been a sponsor with us all draft season. We appreciate that. The fantasy baseball season's underway. There's no better place to play than Underdog Fantasy, the easiest place to play fantasy baseball. Right now, Underdog has MLB best ball tournaments live, including the Dinger, which has $500,000 in total prizes. In best ball, all you do is join a contest, draft your team, and that's it. There are no waivers, no trades, and no in-season management. Draft 20 rounds of players, and you get the best cumulative scores in your starting lineup from 3 pitchers, 3 infielders, 3 outfielders, and 1 flex each week of the regular season. Getting started is simple. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up with the promo code RWMLB, and not only will Underdog double your initial deposit up to $100, but you also will get 6 months of your RotoWire subscription for free. Again, that's Underdog Fantasy, promo code RWMLB. Draft your $100,000 Dinger team today. I'm here with Shelly Verougstrate. We're going to be talking stolen bases here. And the inspiration for me asking Shelly was she had a good tweet string about talking about stolen bases are up in spring training. They're up quite a bit. But who are getting those stolen bases?
Honestly, no one in particular that is, interesting for, redraft leagues. I mean, you have like at the top of the list, we have Zach Veen, which I mean, that's what he does. So it wasn't surprising to see him at the top. But then you have Justin Dean, Tim LeCastro, Will Benson. Well, Will Benson could be something interesting coming up, but probably not at the start. And then Pete Crow Armstrong. So it's a lot of, the prospects. But, it kind of makes sense that it would be that way because, the veterans, they're getting ready for the WBC, or, they only play like 2 innings. So
right.
It makes sense, but I don't know. I was rowing on my rower, and I was just like, does it really matter if stolen bases are up if it's just guys that are, maybe trying to make the team or just, they're just playing like, minor league games kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I wonder if maybe the last 2 weeks of spring training will be a better sample for us if we're trying to figure that. Of course, we're drafting now. So, thanks, guys. It doesn't help us too much. But, I wonder, though, if that's one of the things. I saw, like, David Bell said for the Reds, he wants the Reds to run more. He's very, he's very happy this camp because he's got all these young guys and they're all trying hard. And it's been a fun camp. They're still going to stink on ice, but we all know that. But Will Benson, I'm drafting him in the 30th round, and some just tuck away and hopefully he plays and makes the team. Because let's face it, Senzel's not going to be ready for the start of the season, and he's going to get hurt again anyhow, unfortunately. I'm so jaded. Don't get me started on that, being jaded about my team, but because I will go off on that for a while. But I am excited about Benson. I thought that was a fun little trade for the Reds.
Yeah. I really do like it for Benson because I mean he didn't have a place probably with the Guardians, so he can come over here to Cincinnati and kill it in spring training and probably be up in like 2 to 3 months. Yeah, I really like that trade for them.
Yeah, I do too. Well, let's look at some other factors because I think we are going to need more bags this year. I think with the number of throws and the shortened space between the bases, I think and the pitch clock, I think all these things are kind of exploitable for really good base runners. So, where can we find some of our good stolen bases?
Honestly, I think it's gonna be the guys. It's not gonna be like the Trey Turners. It's not gonna be the Kyle Tuckers, right? It's gonna
Hmm.
be the guys who had like 10 to 15, or someone like Bo Bichette last year, who did try to run but got caught more often than he had previously. So it'd be kind of like those middle tier guys that I think that we're really going to see that boost of stolen
Yeah.
bases.
That makes sense. I think it follows quite a bit. And I think we saw Bichette in particular as a good example because he was remarkably successful at the start of his big league career,
Yep.
and then last year he started to get caught a little bit more. You saw if you look at his sprint speed numbers, they're down just a tick and all that. Well, this is probably something that he gets helped by quite a bit, and he wants to keep running. He'll probably still keep that green light because of this.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I'm trying to think of maybe like some other players. I mean, Vlad did steal like bases last year, and
Hmm.
maybe he'll instead of because I expected him to kind of drop off a little bit, but maybe he can kind of keep near that 7 to 8 mark. That's huge for someone who goes in the first round who you're not really counting on steals from.
Right, because he's always going to be active for you, and it's
Yep.
8 stolen bases that you didn't need to get otherwise. And that's like a standings gain point right there, almost. So that's right there and there. It's awesome. I love the hidden sources of stolen bases, whether it's like, well, Real Muta is hardly hidden; he's hiding in plain sight. But Freeman had more stolen bases than Mookie Betts last year. Aaron Judge never runs. 16 last year.
Yeah. I mean, I actually did do like a deep dive into Freeman's bases because I was like, oh, maybe it's like it was a double steal. Maybe he was right behind Trey Turner. But surprisingly, he only had one back half double steal last year. So that was all him, which I
Wow.
thought was pretty surprising.
Yeah, it's not just Paul Goldschmidt that can run from the first base position anymore. And in
Yeah.
fact, Freddie ran more than Paul, which is interesting. But yeah, I always like finding that there, and it's so huge when you get that guy. Do you dive into like sprint speed metrics, home to first, anything like that?
I kind of do like when I'm starting to do like my prep, I'll just download everyone's home to first times because I like that more than sprint speeds.
Okay.
And then I look position by position and see which one kind of doesn't really make sense, and then like do like a little bit more of a deep dive. Did he steal? Did he not? Whatever. That's how I kind of use sprint speeds or home to first times in my prep.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was just looking at that page actually before we started because I was just diving into it. Posted something about Otani. Shohei Otani had the fifth fastest home to first last year. Which is there something he can't do?
I don't think so. He's just a unicorn, and he's so much fun to watch. I think it was when he was pitching for like Team Japan, and he, struck out like so many guys and went like 2 for 3 or something. He's just amazing.
I love that he's playing the WBC, and of
Yes.
course Japan loves it too. And it's just gets everybody into it so much. I just love that.
Yeah, agreed.
Are you going to watch a lot of the WBC?
Oh yeah. I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, I honestly I will probably be watching that more than spring training games. I mean, I'll
Sure.
keep my eye out on who's playing time battles and stuff like that. But I'll probably be watching the WBC because the last time they had it, it was extremely exciting. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. And I think that's something to keep in mind too, with like when you're looking at spring training stats, when you're looking at who these guys are playing against. Well, a lot of these players are over at the WBC. Our level of competition isn't going to be as strong. So
Exactly.
especially for people trying to fight for a job, and they may be coming in the third or fifth or inning or something of that nature. They're really going to be digging a little deeper now.
Yeah, I mean, I already know that Jordan Walker's like ADP is just going to the moon, but if he's going to be playing probably pretty much every day for the Cardinals in spring training, and if he's, teeing off on, some minor leaguer from AA, I'm just like, oh, the price is going to go, it might even go higher. Who knows?
Yeah, I think he won't quite go Bobby Witt or Julio in terms of his draft helium because I don't think he's going to run as much as those guys.
Sure.
But yeah, it's the same sort of concept. He and Corbin Carroll are just through the roof right now.
Yeah.
And you know that very well because you drafted
Yes.
Carroll in Tout Wars. And yeah, actually, I mean, you didn't even pay an inflated price. It's what he's going for right now at 55.
Yeah, I was actually very surprised that he didn't go ahead of that because I mean, I've been trying to get Carroll, as much as I can because I think he's going to hit high in the lineup and he's going to run I think Arizona is going to be like one of those teams, kind of maybe like your Reds, going to be just trying to get as many any run production that they can, and they might just have to run, and that's what Carroll does.
And that outfield in Arizona is breathtaking. If you're looking at sprint speeds, if you're looking at home to first, you got three of the top right there. And if Alec Thomas starts in center field between Carroll, who's like number 2 overall in sprint speed and like 5th, I think, in home to first, you got Alec Thomas, and then McCarthy, who did run a ton last year.
Yeah. And I don't know. I really do think that the Diamondbacks have something going on. I think like next year we're going to be talking about them kind of like how we're kind of sort of talking about the Orioles this year. They're just like right on the cusp there.
Yeah. And I think the difference is that this offseason they'll spend, whereas the Orioles didn't this past offseason. So I think that might be difference. Yeah, I've seen and heard a lot of positive buzz about the Diamondbacks. I might have been on board with that too. We did our NL West previews on the show on Sirius XM this week, and we talked Diamondbacks, and I think they beat the Giants this year.
Oh yeah, I mean, I guess the Giants tried to push to get like those 2 big free agents and Aaron Judge and Carlos Correa, and it just kind of didn't work.
No.
And then they got left holding the bag because everyone was pretty much gone. So, but yeah, I do agree with you. I do think that the Diamondbacks are going to beat the Giants this year.
Looking at stolen bases, since that's kind of our focus today, how many are you trying to get for your teams?
Honestly, I'm just trying to shoot for the middle of the pack because I do think that they're all going to everyone's stolen bases is going to be going up. And I think that a lot of drafters are going to be focusing on that. So I'm trying to pivot and focus actually more on home runs. But just as long as I finish mid pack, depending on the size of the league, I would be happy with that.
Yeah. Do you use targets at all? Do you try to come up with a number, or is it more of a feel thing for you?
For me, it's a feel thing because usually in a draft, I'm so focused on the players. I always have trouble refreshing my software or my spreadsheets and stuff. So I try to get a good feel for the player pool, and then just try to, compile the best team that I can.
Yeah, I like that. And I guess, it's if you've done the research ahead of time, you don't really need a running tally of how many you have because you don't have them. It's just a projection anyhow. And a projection is a range of outcomes.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I get caught up in that sometimes. I think it's good if you see that you're extremely low on a particular category,
Sure.
like, oh, I better get some speed right now. All right, let's go, Bubba Thompson. Let's go. All right. Something like that. And it's always stolen bases, by the way. I'm always light in stolen bases.
Same. It's either stolen bases that I'm low in or saves. It's one of the two, which is honestly the categories that everyone's looking for. So,
yeah. So, and I guess sometimes it's like a choice. I choose not to get that second closer. That's the way I'm in yogurt right now in TGFBI, is that I have one closer in Class A, and then I waited to the 20th round to get another reliever because I kept on getting beat, and it hurt me to lose on Evan Phillips in the 17th. That was one I probably should have pulled the trigger on because I think he's going to be the guy. At least he's going to have good stats, even if he isn't the guy.
Yeah, I agree. And it's just I feel the same way. I mean, I've been trying to get Class A or Diaz because I do know that one of my trouble spots when I'm drafting is save. So I'm trying to get that one guy because I know me. If I have Evan Phillips or some other hitter, I'm always going to go the hitter because I'm like, oh, well, what if he does this? What if he does that? So
right.
I've been trying to recognize that and try to get the big guy and then, work the waiver wire or try to get someone else later.
Yeah, I've done that. One of the things too is like last year I missed out on a second closer in one of my main events in FBC main events, and I did well anyhow. But the question is, did I do well because I went this way or despite that? That's always the thing you have to dig into a little bit more.
Yeah, it really is. Was that the draft that you got Sir Anthony Dominguez off waivers and then he got hurt or something like that?
Oh
yes.
yeah. That saga. Yeah. Where Jimmy Herget got his saves right after before and I had him and after I cut him. Yeah. Fun times.
I hate that. I hate when that happens.
This is why people are so, adamant about getting two solid closers and why you see that a little bit more often. But I'm playing the game again in TGFBI, so we'll see. But and that one, at least in the main, I had Barlow as my number one closer, and he wasn't even that solid. He was great. But he wasn't getting all the saves. So
yeah.
So it goes. We're going to talk about your ToutWars team here in a second because you did that on Tuesday night. But before that, let's get our other note here from our friends at Fantrax. Fantrax is the most customizable fantasy platform in the industry, offering the greatest fantasy experience for your dynasty, keeper, redraft, and best ball leagues. Coming from another service, Fantrax makes it easy. Fantrax can import any of your current leagues and customize if needed. We've often done ToutWars, both the draft and auction rooms in Fantrax. So we've had a lot of good success with them. They offer the most in-depth player pool in the industry, including minor league players. Do you need a customizable commissioner service for your fantasy league? Fantrax offers more customization than any other platform. Waivers, categories, scoring system, schedule. Fantrax offers custom solutions for all that and more, and it's all free. Sign up for free today and be entered to win an official MLB signed jersey from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Simply go to fantrax.com/RotoWire and sign up today. That's fantrax.com/RotoWire. Fantrax, the home of fantasy sports. Also, real quick, we are on the Blue Wire Network. Here are a couple of their ads. Thank you for your indulgence there and letting me shut a window because the gardeners are outside, so that was fun. We are here with Shelly Verougstrate from RotoWorld. Shelly, you did ToutWars on Tuesdays, the 15-team mixed league. I think this is the event you've been in the last couple of years as well, correct?
Yep. This will be my third year.
All right, very good. What spot did you draft out of?
I had the 6th pick.
Okay, very cool. And so this is an OBP league, just for people who aren't familiar with ToutWars. It's a little different than other leagues, but I'm going to post Shelly's team here as I got that from Twitter. At least we'll just kind of scroll down as we get through the lanes. But you got 6. Was that a happy spot for you, or what's your preferred draft spot?
I actually prefer the middle, like around 8. So I did have my choice of 6 through 15.
Okay.
But since I had been drafting 8 for most of draft season, luck of the draw, I guess, or luck of KDS, right. I decided to kind of change it up a little bit and just went with the 6th.
We're very similar. 8's my favorite spot in a 15-teamer as well, at least in the snake draft format there. So cool. You started off with Vlad Guerrero Jr. Who were you debating between with Vlad and others?
It really was Vlad at that point because I knew going in that probably Juan Soto, Julio Rodriguez, and stuff like that probably weren't going to be there. So after that, Vlad was going to be my next pick. I know that he's probably not going to give me too many stolen bases, but just like we were talking about before, he stole about 8 last year, and if I get that, I'm happy as a clam. So, and just in an OBP league, I just love Vlad. He's going to play every day. So yeah, I thought it was a solid pick.
Yeah, he is. There's been good news too about his knee. Looks like he's going to be back in game action pretty soon, even though he's not playing the WBC. Maybe I'm sure the Blue Jays are just heartbroken that he's not playing the WBC though.
Oh yeah, it's a whole lot of tears coming down.
Exactly there. You got yourself a share of Jacob deGrom, and judging by what you said on Twitter, was I need to get a share of Jacob deGrom.
Yeah. I mean, I've been avoiding him all draft season, but knowing that ToutWars has unlimited IL, I thought that this would be the perfect league to take advantage of that. I went like a little bit too early going in the second round, but I didn't want, like I said, I wanted at least one share, so I got my one share.
I don't have the full grid in front of me. So how many pitchers I take it Colin Burns were already gone? Were any other pitchers gone?
I think those are let me just double check. Yes, those are the two that were gone. So
Okay.
it was, I like I said, I went early because I just didn't want anyone to spoil my plans. So, but we'll see how it goes. I think that he's supposed to like throw early next week. So fingers crossed.
Exactly. Now, you got good news. I mean, he threw 100 in a batting average, in a live batting practice yesterday. So I think he worked around 98, 99, topped out at 100, going to pitch a game on Monday. So, I mean, I think his ADP is going to start to climb.
Yeah. I mean, as soon as he gets on that mound and, does his thing for 2 innings, it's going to shoot back up just like it did last year, right around this time. So
yes,
I'm excited to see him throw, and hopefully I made a good, wise pick here, but we'll see.
And how nice is it that we have a real spring training, and instead of, dealing with the owners lockout or COVID or anything of that nature, we're just going to have a normal spring training.
It's been so refreshing, just to not have to deal with the drama of all of the lockout situations and then the stress over COVID and all that stuff. It's just nice to have real baseball back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it makes it easier for us to draft. I mean, we know we need some normalcy here after everything that's gone the last few years between happy fun ball and the lockout and all that. It's amazing how hard it's been.
Oh yeah. It's been crazy, but I'm glad we're back to normal.
Exactly. Okay. Let's keep looking at your team. You got, you have 3 aces and actually 4 aces in the top 10 rounds. You went Nola in the 3rd. Can't go wrong there. George Kirby. Everybody is on George Kirby. I'm finding I can't afford him anymore. And you took a chance on Musgrove in the 10th, taking a little bit of the discount on him, pretty much like doubled the price of where he usually goes at pick 145.
Yeah. I was actually surprised no one jumped on Musgrove before I did because he wasn't in the plans. Like I saw him in the 8th and the 9th. I'm like, okay, is anyone going to take him? I mean, I already had DeGrom, right? Which I'm not expecting a full season from him. And, I'm like, do I take Joe Musgrove? And then once he got to the 10th, I'm like, I'm sorry, guys. He could not fall any farther. So I just had to draft him there.
Yeah. And the thing is, Tout is a trade league. It's a standalone league. It's not an overall contest. So if you're a little heavy in starting pitching, so be it. I mean, you added Reed Detmers in the 14th too, and I like him a lot. You got like 5 studs right there, and that allows you to take some chances later on and kind of mix and match. Is this a draft style you're comfortable doing, or is this a little bit different because of the way it was given to you?
I mean, this is actually like a tad bit different. Usually, I wait on starting. Kind of wait on starting pitching. I still get like my aces, but just how the draft was going. I'm just like, okay, I'll take Nola. I'll take Kirby. I mean, as a dark horse candidate, I think that he could win the Cy Young. Like that's my dark horse pick. So I was glad to get him, but, yeah, I mean, it was a tad bit different just how the room was playing, but I think the team turned out pretty well.
Yeah. And, Kirby, I mean, he doesn't walk anybody. I love that.
I love that. Love that. And we started to see those strikeouts creep up just ever so slightly at the end of the year. So, yeah, I'm expecting big things from him.
Yeah, the trade-off is you didn't get a first-tier closer, but you got 2 high skills relievers in Pete Fairbanks and Andres Munoz. The question is whether or not they close. Fairbanks in the 9th, and that seems like the going rate for him now. Munoz, I thought was cheap at 186.
Yeah. I think Seawald had gone like the round before. So as soon as I saw that, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go get my guy Munoz. I don't think that he's gonna close at the start because I really do think that the Mariners like really love Paul Seawald. So I think that he's gonna get the first shot. But at any time, Munoz could grab that grab that, that closer role. And if not, I'm going to get plenty of strikeouts and pretty decent ratio. So I was okay with it.
100%. Plus, I mean, the Mariners are committed to using multiple guys. I'm
Exactly.
pretty confident that both Sewald and Munoz are going to have a lot of value. And I typically like, if I'm going to get one of them, I get the one that goes later.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. So, okay, let's talk about the hitting side. You have a lot of pitchers early on, and nothing, like we said before, this is a standalone league. You don't have to be balanced, but basically like 7-7 early on. But you did get Corbin Carroll. You did get Tommy Edman. So you have a lot of speed. Ahmed Rosario is going to run a little bit as well. So I think you've got your speed lined up.
Yep. I'm just hoping that the power comes around. I mean, I think that Carroll could hit like 15 to 20 home runs. I got Eloy there, and as long as he can stay on the field, I just hope that the White Sox DH that guy. I don't want him playing in the field.
Right.
But
even though he wants to.
I know.
So badly.
But yeah, I mean, I liked how the hitting went. I think that I got solid contributors all the, for most of the way down. Once you get down to the bottom there, it gets kind of wonky. It's a 15-team league, so you're just, grasping at straws at times. But I thought that the hitting, turned out pretty good. And I got some of my guys. I got Lars Nootbaar. I got Brian De La Cruz. I got Hye-Sung Kim, who I think is, I mean, he was like really, really good last year. So yeah, I got my guys, and I, crossed off, all the boxes.
The commentariat likes a lot of your picks as well. Brooks Durham says he likes the Hye-Sung Kim pick. He's going to be playing second base. I'd rather see him at short and put Bogarts at second if that's possible. But I mean, you're a Red Sox fan. You got the hat on and all that. You know pretty well about his issues there defensively.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think that he should be at second, but I know that San Diego is going to give, Xander time to realize that, oh, maybe I should be at second base.
They'll give him 8 years. So,
exactly.
How shocked were you at the turn of events?
I was kind of, I expected him to go, and then the Red Sox signed Yoshida and Jansen. So I'm like, okay, now we're starting to put some things together. And then the news came, and, San Diego ponied up and got my favorite player from my favorite team. So
that's twice now too. I mean, between the Dodgers getting Mookie and now Bogarts going, 2 gut punches for the fan base.
It's awful. I mean, I'm glad that, the fan base, let John Henry hear it at that hockey game, so we do have Devers to look forward to long term. But I mean, losing Mookie and Xander was just absolutely devastating for the fan base.
Yeah, absolutely. So you didn't end up with Yoshida on your team. Was that by design, or just was somebody else higher on him?
That's kind of by design. I mean, I think that Yoshida is going to be a fine player. I just don't know if we're going to see it this year. Because Hye-Sung Kim had, great projections coming out of the KBO, and he kind of struggled in his first season here. Right. And then the next season, he kind of rebounded. And so that's kind of what I'm expecting for Yoshida. So hopefully I can, buy the dip next year.
Yeah, all the projection systems love his batting average potential. Yeah. It's like that was a chapter in fantasy baseball Twitter early in the offseason there, when I think shortly after he signed. And that's the tricky part, is trying to find the right translation. I'm not so well versed in like the specific Japanese ballparks which is a good hitter's ballpark there, which one isn't. So it takes me a while to kind of get up to speed on whether or not he benefited from any sort of advantage there.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I struggled with that a little bit. Let's take a look at a couple more of your players here. Kyle Bradish, Rudy Gamble snagged him, pried him from my loving arms in labor. I was so frustrated with that. I'm glad you got him and Wesneski right next, back to back with each other.
Yeah. I really do like both of these guys. And if I look at like my NFBC player shares, out of the 5 drafts that I've done, I have Bradish and Wesneski on 4 of the 5 teams. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So I didn't realize I was that big of a fan, but I guess I am. I'm all aboard the Bradish and Wesneski train.
Well, if you're on a player, I've found like in the mid to late rounds, I keep on going to the well with the same guys. it's not even necessarily like, okay, I've got to have them. It's just like, oh yeah, it seems right. And it's harder to find players that you like at that range.
Exactly. You just kind of like, once you, quote unquote, fall in love with a guy, it's like, okay, yeah, I kind of think I know what I'm getting here. So just come on down, join my team.
Exactly. Your last pick. It's a sneaky speed play. Michael Massey. A lot of people may not be as aware of him. Were you big? Do you have a lot of Massey, or is just was it what was your motivation for taking him?
I've started the last draft and hold that I did for NFBC. I did grab him, but this will be my second share.
Okay.
But I've liked what I've seen so far in spring, and I do think that he's going to get the majority of playing time in second base in Kansas City. I mean, again, it's Kansas City, so I mean, how many RBIs or runs can you expect? Probably not too many, but he's going to give me that all important, plate appearances that we're all striving for.
Yeah, and the thing I like about your roster construction is you kind of steered into waiting on the middle infielder slots. You got Tommy Edman obviously early enough in the 6th, but you weren't afraid to like kind of test the depth. Get Rosario a little bit later. Massey can slot in. Paredes is someone that you can play with there. Rengifo, he's such a good utility player there, and then Massey too.
Yeah, and that's what I liked about like Rengifo and Paredes. Like they have, I think Rengifo is second and third, and
Yes.
then Paredes has first, second, and third. So there's a whole lot of like puzzle pieces that I can move whenever I have an injury or a bad matchup or whatever.
Yeah, 5 games versus 7. You can play that game a lot more.
Exactly.
That's huge to be able to have, especially when you're going to be putting other guys on the injured list, which means the free agent list isn't going to be as deep.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, so I like that. I like all of that. Who is the player that got away? Is there someone that you had targeted that you were close to getting and someone sniped him?
Let me see. Honestly, it was probably Joe Ryan. I really do like Joe Ryan. I think he's going to have a big year because I think he added a split change and a slider, or he's added 2 pitches in the offseason after going to Driveline.
Okay.
And what's good about that is he has been using both of those new pitches in spring training. So he has like some type of confidence in that. And he's always had like a great fastball just based on, kind of like where it's released, and it's very deceptive. So I think that he's going to have a big year. So, seeing that, of course, Adam Ronis drafted Joe Ryan in the 13th, so 183rd off the board. Yeah, I was pretty bummed about that because I'm like, daggone it, I wanted Joe Ryan, but them's the breaks.
That warms the cockles of my heart because I do have Joe Ryan in TGFBI, and I'm now scrambling to see where I got him because I felt like it was a little reachy at the time, but maybe not so much. By the way, while I'm looking, well, I'll pull that up here, but I got him. I was reachy about him here. I got him in the end of the 8th and at 118. So yes, I still was reachy about Joe Ryan, but I like the added velocity. I like the extra pitches. I like a lot of that there.
Exactly. And it's just as long as the Twins can stay healthy, I think that, they'll be somewhat competitive in the AL Central. So there could be plenty of wins there.
Yeah, indeed. By the way, I do these podcasts with everybody in the fantasy community on Thursdays to validate my picks. When smart people validate my picks, I always feel better about it there. So, which player is the one that you're most nervous about on your roster?
Honestly, it's probably JD Martinez.
Okay.
Because I've watched him for like the last like 5 seasons with Boston, and at the beginning of that contract, it was, candy canes and lollipops and everything. It was like all the home runs. It was so great. And then the last couple of years, like the power has slowly been decreasing. I could just see that his bat speed just wasn't as crisp as it was. It started, back in 2020, and he was blaming it on like he couldn't watch, his videos and all that stuff, but it just never really quite bounced back. But, he signed with the Dodgers, and the Dodgers do what the Dodgers do. They always somehow make players better. So I took a gamble on him. He's only util eligible. He's not going to get outfield. So he's kind of like stuck in that one spot. So I am nervous because I'm hoping that the power will somewhat return, but if not, I'm hoping for, I guess, kind of like a decent average Michael Brantley type player.
Yeah. I mean, you got him late enough, 17th pick,
Yeah.
that if he does bust, you could probably get away with benching him. The worst part is when you take a chance on a player like that, it's UT only. And let's call him Nelson, for instance. And he finally does bust for the first time in his career.
Yeah.
The tough part's taking him out of your lineup.
Exactly. And it's just like, yeah. I don't know. What do you think about Nelson Cruz? Because I don't know how, because he was dealing with like eye issues, right? And I'm
Right.
like, well, why didn't you get it fixed? I don't understand. But anyway, he got the surgery and everything, but the Padres only gave him $1 million, which I thought was very low. Um, I mean, so I'm a tad bit nervous about
Right.
good old Nelson Cruz this year.
What you got to worry about is the bat speed slowing down.
Yeah.
Hard for me to call someone who's 10 years younger than me old, but still, he's getting there at that point. He's baseball old, and it is the vision. The vision was a concern. I thought it wasn't just a Tampa Bay thing. That's the first thing I thought of. It's like, oh, he got traded to the Rays. That's why he slumped the second half of 2021. Not that he was finally, the people were finally right that he'd get too old, because for years he was a prophet. I'm super loyal to him. And this year, he's on the wrong side of a platoon in a park that's not great, but in a lineup that's so loaded. So, I mean, he could get this Pujols-esque renaissance. I think it's possible, but I'd say the odds are probably against it.
Yeah. I mean, I really do hope that, he has like that, that did cat bounce season for the Padres, because I mean, I think that the Padres it's going to be definitely one of my teams that I'm going to be going to late at night or early on a Sunday afternoon or something like that.
Well, we know you're a known Orsillo fan, so there is that.
Exactly. Yeah. So they have Don Orsillo and Xander Bogaerts. I think I might need to change my hat. So
yes. Yeah. Well, there you go. Well, hey, I'll be, when your team is bad, I don't give up on my team, but I pick up a second team.
Exactly.
I have a secondary rooting interest, and I have to figure that one out this year. You want to find team fun, at least out there. And, Padres are definitely, everyone's jumping aboard that bandwagon now. It was so cool. Took my daughter on a college looking tour last year, and we stopped down in San Diego for a couple of schools and went to I think the first home game after the Soto trade, and packed ballpark. It was awesome. And they scored one run against the Nats. It was, and it was like, it was at the height of their slump. Hader came in and blew a Darvish lead. They had a 1-0 lead. Machado went deep, and then Hader came in and blew it in the ninth. It was brutal to watch.
Yeah, but I bet like the first couple innings, I bet the atmosphere was just jumping.
Oh, it's off the charts. And then watching him in the playoffs and just seeing that full ballpark. Baseball owners, see, you've invested your product, you get fans, and then you make money. It's fun.
It's funny how that works.
Yeah. I love seeing when teams go for it like that. I like seeing the Phillies. I like the Phillies owners' comments a little bit there too. He's like, what do I want to be remembered for? Making him more of a profit or trying to bring home a World Series winner? Middleton, gotta give him credit.
Yeah. And I mean, they have the right general manager or baseball of operations guy to do it, because he's, Dombrowski. He's going to go all in.
He's never rebuilding.
Exactly. I mean, that's why I was like so high on Andrew Painter before his injury, because I'm like, oh, Dombro is just going to let him go. But
yeah, exactly.
Maybe his elbow will go before Dombro will let him go.
Yeah. That's a bad beat there.
Yeah.
So with the Red Sox, okay, we'll do a little therapy, Red Sox and Reds therapy here and all that. Where is their reason for hope? Is it Cassis? Is it just who's left in the farm system? What makes you excited to watch your Red Sox this year?
For me, it's definitely going to be Casas or Brian Bayo, or maybe and Brian Bayo. I mean, I was huge on Brian Bayo last year. I got burned like in his first initial call up, but then when he came back, I think it was like in September or something, he was lights out. I'm hoping that his elbow thing or forearm thing is nothing too drastic. I mean, he has started to throw again and stuff like that. I mean, he might not be ready to start the season, but I still have high hopes for him. And I think that they're going to need it, because I mean, Paxton went down shockingly.
There's that whole rotation is like this whole, it's MacGyver-like rotation. It's held together by chicken wire and duct tape.
Yeah. I mean, it was really good to see Chris Sale throw. I think it was like 2 innings,
Mhm.
sometime this week. So it was like really good to see like the old Chris Sale back. But yeah, that rotation is ugh, it's gonna be not too much fun to watch. But I am really excited to see Casas. He did strike out a little bit more than I was expecting in his, cup of coffee in September, but he still showed off the power. And I mean, he's been looking amazing this spring. So I think he's gonna be rising up like pre draft boards for next year, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I have
Yeah,
already a lot of Casas, and I will
nice,
continue to get more. And Bayo, I got him in Labor, I got him in TGFBI, I got him in Scarf. I'm getting Bayo a lot lately.
nice.
So I hope that works. What do you think about Whitlock and Tanner Houck? Did either of those stick in the rotation this year?
I don't think so. I've been off Hulk for a while now. I
Mhm.
was not thinking that he was going to be a starter last year. I'm like, the dude only really has a slider that's going to play up in the bullpen, and so I think that's going to be his home. When it comes to Whitlock, I'm still a little bit. I still need to see like a tad bit more. Um, he's coming off hip surgery and he's kind of a young guy. It's kind of odd that
Yeah.
he would need hip surgery. But I'm hoping that he can stay in the rotation. But even if he does, I think that the Red Sox are going to kind of row him, be slow with him at the start. So
Right.
from a fantasy standpoint, the wins probably are not going to be there because they'll probably have him start. They won't have him be like the middle guy, right? So
Right.
I don't know. I don't hold out too much fantasy hope for them this year.
Yeah, and you've made your way in this fantasy community by being a great prospect analyst. So, Marcelo Meyer, are you super excited about him?
Yes, I'm very excited about him. I'm hoping that he finishes the season in Double A. I'm pretty sure he will. Fingers crossed, it's like Triple A, but that's probably wishing way too much on him. But what he showed last year, especially after coming back from his injury that he had for a couple weeks, he looked really good. So I think that could be one of the reasons why Xander is in San Diego and not, Boston right now, because they're like, oh, we have this other guy who's going to be here in a couple years. But
Yeah. Well, there you go. Maybe that is why. And they'll be validated 2 years down the line, or it's 2 years wasted. That's the debate. Of course.
yeah,
You always expect Boston to behave like a big market franchise, but that's not always the case, unfortunately. There. Um, you work now at RotoWorld. What are you doing for them?
yeah. So during the season, I have a weekly dynasty article that I just, talk about random, dynasty-esque topics.
Okay.
Sometimes it's more older guys, sometimes it's prospects, sometimes it's a mix. I kind of like to bring both aspects to a dynasty article because dynasty is not just prospects. It's, some major
True.
league guys too. So I try to, incorporate all that. And then, I work on the news side, one day a week. So yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. When's your next article coming out?
It's probably not going to be until like the first or second week of the season.
Okay. We'll be looking forward to that there.
Nice.
Shelly, thank you so much for joining us today. You can follow Shelly on Twitter, of course, at Shelly V _643. And of course, read her work at RotoWorld. Shelly, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Anytime. That's going to conclude today's podcast. Big thanks to Underdog and to Fantrax. Coming up tomorrow, we got Clay and Todd. Thanks again for listening to RotoWire. Have a good evening.